Let's look at the sponsors for tonight's Hazmat Guys Roundtable. Haz Mat 101 Consultants. Haz Mat 101 Consultants and their instructors can provide quality consulting and virtual or in-person hazardous materials training for your agency. Owner and lead instructor Bob Cascignano is also available for lecturing at your fire or hazmat conference and has in fact done many speaking engagements across the country. Visit their website at www.hazmatconsultants.com or email Bob Cascignano at bob@hazmat101consultants.com. For over 20 years, K&R Plaques have had the pleasure of helping clients choose awards for the people they want to honor. Their state-of-the-art equipment allows clients to design, customize, and personalize the awards they choose for that special somebody. With one of the largest selections of plaques, awards, trophies, and clothing apparel, they can deliver quality products to satisfy any customer's needs. No order is too big or too small. Visit their website at www.knrplaques.com or email them at sales@knrplaques.com. Intercontinental Fire Training Academy is an education institution that has 3 branches of education: hazmat, technical rescue, and fire. They offer approved curriculum for you or your agency. Examples of a few of their classes are HazWhopper, rope rescue, fire officer and driver, and much more. Training can be conducted at their facility or they can come to you. For more information, visit them at www.icft.academy or call them at 305-450-4530. Responder Training. RTE is the leading company in delivering propane training along with emergency response equipment. Responder Training has many propane flaring kits, water injection kits, accessories, and replacement parts available. They also sell the only commercially available 1-inch propane flare kit, appropriately named the Dragon Slayer, because size does matter. Contact our good friend, owner-instructor Ron Huffman for more information. You can reach him at 765-524-4848. You can email Ron at respondertraining.rdh.gmail.com or peruse his website at respondertraining.com. If you would like to sponsor the show and help keep live hazmat conversation coming in the future and help send at least one lucky participant to a national level hazmat conference, send an email to bob@thehazmatguys.com and he'll send you the information. Thanks. Now on with the show.
I think we're getting there. All right. Hi. Hey, how's everybody doing? We're here.
Hello.
Welcome, Hazmateers, to this episode of the Haz Mat Roundtable 2.0. We're the only interactive show. We're on the X and in the hot zone where everybody gets to see the table. I'm Bobby Salson. I'm here with Mike Monaco,
Hello.
Bob Cascignano,
Hello.
and Jay-Z, looking very haggard tonight, but we'll get him out there.
Retirement did not do Jay-Z well.
Yeah, wow. For the next hot moment, we will be in the hot zone and on the X with the Hazmat guys seated at this table.
Yeah.
Welcome, everybody, for coming out.
And we've all had our...
Jay-Z's got glasses on now. What the hell?
He's incredible.
We've all...
A chameleon.
We've all had our lithium. We're all charged up for this show.
Yeah.
I hope everyone's got some good energy out there.
No, we got...
it's Cinco de Mayo tomorrow. I just got to say one thing. So we got Cinco de Mayo.
Well,
That
may
is
the
true.
4th be with you.
Absolutely. Moving
We
on.
have our very good friend, Paul Rogers, a longtime fan of the show, we're longtime fans
Fan
of
of
Paul.
his.
Of his.
Of his. He
Absolutely.
is an incredible creature. But we brought him on to talk about his specialty, a topic that we like to kind of talk about tonight. Paul, you know what? I'm not even doing injustice. Paul, tell us who you are, what you're doing, and what you're all about right now.
Yeah, thanks, Bobby. So again, you guys can hear me well, right? Hopefully. Okay, great. So yeah, how you doing, everyone? Paul Rogers. I'm retired from the New York City Fire Department, where I worked in hazmat with these two guys, Hazmat One, Bobby Salveson and Mike, and of course Bob up there on the top. I know him just through the hazmat world and stuff like that. But back in like 2013, I was grabbed offline to work on these energy storage systems and lithium-ion batteries in particular, with different applications and things of that sort. And today I'm retired, and I'm actually doing some work putting in energy storage systems from a safety point of view, making sure I take care of firefighters. My number one thing is making sure that these firefighters are taken care of. So when the code officials look at things, I make sure that the firefighters are well equipped and that they can handle these things if they were to fail.
Yeah.
So I know we're going to talk a little bit about EVs today, which is fine, and that incident that took place down in Texas.
Yeah, and I think I speak for the three of us, the three regulars here on the show, that there is no way I want anything to be construed as we are armchair quarterbacking or, Monday morning quarter, whatever the hell you want to call it. I am.
Wow, take all the fun out of the show.
Because if I was the guy, I'd be like, who the hell are these guys to talk about my incident? But I think we can do it justice.
We can all learn from anything, right? It doesn't have to be a critique like, oh, this is what you did wrong. But the whole purpose of this is to kind of be, and I'm not saying they did anything wrong, but the whole purpose of this is to learn so others can do better.
Yeah,
absolutely. And when you're through learning, you're through. I've been retired 2 years, which I can't believe already. It's been 2 years, but I'm still learning stuff. So when you're through learning, you're through. You might as well hang it up.
Could you imagine a day where you go, I didn't learn anything today. All right, I guess it's done. Could you imagine it? Like you just walk in and you go, I guess I'm finished. That's it. I'm done.
See what's on the internet.
So, all right, I'm going to read you the article. This was the original article from April 19, 2021. This is from NBC News that says 2 men were killed Saturday in a car crash in Texas after a Tesla that no one was driving hit a tree, authorities said. Deputies responded to a crash at 11:25 p.m. near the Woodlands, an area about 30 miles north of Houston. Mark Herman, the Harris County Precinct 4 constable, said Sunday. The vehicle, it was a 2019 Tesla Model S, was driving at a high rate of speed when it ran off the road, hit a tree, and burst into flames. Herman told NBC of Houston that a preliminary investigation revealed that no one was driving the car when the accident occurred. One person was in the passenger seat, another was in the rear seat. Authorities, that's insane. Authorities have identified the victims as men of ages 69 and 59. The names have not been released. Deputies used more than 30,000 gallons of water to extinguish the flames because the vehicle's battery kept reigniting, Herman said. At some point during the fire, which Herman said lasted for about 4 hours, the responding officers had to call Tesla to determine how to put out the flames. Tesla did not immediately respond to a request for comment. They didn't say to the fire department. They said for a comment. The NTSB said that Monday that it would investigate. National Highway Safety Transit Administration also investigating. And that's pretty much it. So I think there was a lot of backlash on social media about how did it take this fire department 30,000 gallons to put out a car fire. And I think they were very mistaken.
Yeah, I think when you start having cops describe fire scenes, things get a little askew.
Let's watch the viewers go down. Nope, didn't go down. Didn't go down at all.
Listen, we only got one LAPD guy who likes us, okay?
Yes, that's true. Paul, what are your initial thoughts on, obviously, a car accident? It seems like they were working outside the parameters of the car. They got into an accident. The car crashed. 30,000 gallons.
Yeah, I got a couple of things I'd like to say. First of all, right, it's always sad when we lose people at any type of event. So that's unfortunate that 2 people were killed in the event. But secondly, when you're driving at a high rate of speed and you hit a tree, bad things happen. So, I think some people are looking to blame Tesla, like, hey, you didn't make the car resilient enough. So I want to clear that up, right?
Because this is not the first car fire in the history of vehicular car accidents.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like, we're clear on that. Okay.
And and the sad part is this is going to go down as data that, oh yeah, Tesla had a fire with one of their cars in Houston, but man, then take a look at everything that took place, right? You're driving at a high rate of speed, you hit a tree. things will happen. And actually, it's consistent that it did go on fire, as far as from what I know and everything on how these batteries actually work.
As more and more Teslas start to get on the road, due to the mechanics of the lithium-ion batteries, and during a crash, a breach, a fire ensues because of a breach. What? I guess we can't really quantify the level of a crash, but should we expect to see more frequent car fires from I'm not going to say Tesla, I'll say battery operated or electrical vehicles in general?
Yeah, that's a loaded question, Mike. Most of the electric vehicles that are out there with reputable companies, they're using high quality batteries. So I'm doing some work with the FAA and the Department of Transportation, and one of the biggest concerns is counterfeit batteries coming into the United States. What I mean by counterfeit is that these things, the manufacturing process is not the quality assurance that we see at the reputable places. So the quality assurance takes into account the forces involved in a 55-mile-an-hour crash. No, they won't, Mike. But what they'll do is they'll make a battery resilient. If you have a battery and you have just a separator that is wrinkled and it's not in place correctly, that could cause an internal short circuit to have that battery go on fire, right? And there's other things that could happen. But quality assurance is so big to make sure these batteries are produced or manufactured properly. So there is a big concern about a lot of these counterfeit batteries coming over from China. I should say China. I should say Asia, which is inclusive of China, but where they just feel that these batteries are just not at the same quality that we see in America. Now, I want to be very careful to say there are some real good, reputable companies in Asia too. That's not fair to knock the whole industry. It's in Asia, because some of them are extremely, extremely well made. So I really want to make sure that the audience knows that not every battery that's coming out of Asia is a bad battery. That's totally unfair to say. And I want to make sure that message gets out there. But will this be the fake? I'm not going to say fake batteries, but I forget how you mentioned it. The
less reputable
batteries. Will they be? Sorry. Well, is that where in the supply chain will they go? Like, I'll use Tesla for example. Is Tesla concerned about getting a batch of bad batteries that are not as reliable, or is this generally like, okay, I'm a manufacturer, I have a solid supply chain, those are going to be good. It's the off-brand or somebody who's starting their own battery, or I'm replacing a battery on a vehicle and I'm going down to my local auto parts zone to, get a battery. Is that where they're concerned about it, or is it actually part of the manufacturer's direct supply chain?
Or even counterfeit batteries.
Right, counterfeit, anything along those lines.
Yeah, so and we'll use Tesla as an example. They have very high quality standards for anyone that may supply them with any type of batteries, and that's a good thing, right? So, and they have a lot of safety features within the actual modules themselves. So, if a cell were to actually fail, they can grab that heat and making sure that the cell next to it doesn't propagate. So Tesla did a lot of due diligence on heat transfer to make sure that they don't compromise the adjoining cell. And that's what we call propagation, right? When the thing goes into thermal runaway, and then that battery will actually cause the other batteries adjacent to it to start to go on fire. But now when you go at a high rate of speed, you probably just compromised all those safeties that they had in there. And also it's on the chassis, it's underneath the bottom of, they placed theirs underneath the bottom of the chassis itself. So it's very difficult for the firefighters to get that. It's a very hard vantage point. And, and there's still a lot of stranded energy in there, even when they show up. Even when the batteries are burning, there is still stranded energy that we need to be concerned about.
What does that mean? What does stranded energy mean? And from a operations level firefighter, so your normal first responding firefighters, what do they need to be concerned about with the stranded energy and getting to a victim, right? Let's say they pull up and they need to make a grab, but they also need to try to knock this fire down. Are they doing it from underneath? Are they doing it through the through the inside of the vehicle? Like, where should they really be concerned about focusing that water?
And I think another thing too is what runaway means, because I think a lot of people don't know what that term is.
Yeah, that's a good point, Bob. I'll, if it's all right, Mike, I'll just answer Bob's question first, and then I'll come back to yours. So Bob, that term thermal runaway is where the battery, the cell itself, right? The cell, right? It starts to heat up on the interior of the battery itself, right? And that heat just starts to continue to build up to a point that you can no longer stop that heat from keep on generating to get hotter and hotter, where the whole cell will actually go on fire, right?
Okay.
And that's called a thermal runaway. A lot of people think the thermal runaway is where you got one cell and then that heat from that cell, that's called propagation. So not a big deal, but people get that term mixed up. So Mike, back to your question, as far as what would you suggest for the fire service on these electric vehicles, right? And how do we put these fires out? I think that was your question, right, Mike?
Yeah, more you have a possible victim in the car, whether viable or not. Everybody's going to try to make that grab. Where are we focusing that stream? I mean, because the batteries are, with the Teslas, I'm sure a lot of them are mimicking, the batteries are the floor of the vehicle. So you've almost created almost an oven effect. So are we better off for life safety purposes focusing the stream inside and cooling off that floor? Or are we going to try to knock the fire down from underneath to knock down the source of heat? What would be the better strategy? And
it's hard to give that strategy right now, because it all depends on where the heat is coming from, right? It could be from the back rear tire, right, which is not really going to be close to where we're doing the victim. But yeah, you want to just try to cool that area down if it's going to hinder you getting the people out. So you're basically using that just to push the fire, push the heat away, right? The heat that's going to come out of the batteries themselves. And then we're going to go try to grab the victim. And we've seen that even in gasoline fires, right? You try to push back the flame just to make sure that we can grab the people out of the car that may be trapped in there because the doors won't open or things of that sort. So the same applies here. But electric cars, there's going to be some challenges on there. If they're used appropriately, I don't see any issues as these things are going to go on fire all the time. That wouldn't be fair to say. I told you that the big thing is just looking at these lithium-ion batteries that may come on. Did we lose Bobby?
No, he's having camera issues, so he just flashed out for a moment.
Oh, okay. So these lithium-ion batteries, we see this all over the news, right? Like, hey, a cell phone went on fire, or a hoverboard went on fire, and they start to say, well, the lithium-ion batteries, and then everyone starts to look at all the EVs, the electric vehicles have lithium-ion batteries, these other things have lithium-ion batteries, and so on, and they just get nervous about that. But if you ever go on Amazon and you order something with a lithium-ion battery, and I'm not here to knock Amazon, by the way, so I got to always be careful on who I'm sorry about. But if you ever go on there and you see some products, right, and you see one product for $19.99 and another product for $5.99, and they both are energized by some sort of battery, well, I would be a little bit concerned about the $5.99, right? Because they may not be the same quality assurance that you see in the 19. So you get what you pay for, right? And I'm not saying that battery is going to be bad, but the charging and discharging of the batteries starts to wear the battery down. The manhandling of the battery or the mishandling of the battery also can compromise the battery itself. And once you start to compromise that battery, you get that internal short circuit. Then we get a potential of that thermal runaway that we mentioned before to you, Bob.
Now there was a lot of discussion, Paul, about when, and again, there was a lot of misinformation put out there. They talked about 30,000 gallons of water or whatever. And the fire chief or somebody came back and said, hold on a minute. The real story here is we had the fire out in 3 to 4 minutes. We kept the cells cool because they still had bodies inside the car, and it was still a crime scene investigation. And that's why they were there for 3 to 4 hours, putting however many gallons of water on it. but the chief came out and said, we've had the fire out in, 2 to 3 minutes. What do you recommend, or as an example, 1 or 2 different types of extinguishing agents for this type of thing? Because a lot of people are saying foam, don't do foam, dry chem, what have you.
Yeah, really, that's a really good point, right? First of all, we're dealing with electrical, right, or electrochemical, right? And usually with electricity or types of chemicals, we're saying, hey, no water on any of that stuff, right? But in this situation, water is going to be the best extinguishing agent out there for any type of fire event dealing with a lithium-ion battery. They do give off a high heat release, but they're not dealing with much lithium, right? We're not dealing with a lithium metal battery. We're dealing with a lithium salt. So using a water stream is good, right? And then we have to look at things like electrical leakage, but that's more for the energy storage system. We did testing on all of that stuff, see how much energy may come back to the firefighter that may be on the nozzle themselves. So there's a lot of work that still needs to be done on these electric vehicles. One of my concerns is that you have a car accident, nothing's showing, the car gets towed away, and then hours later in the salvage yard, we had damage, but we have a delay of the actual ignition of the battery itself, and now we have the whole salvage yard on fire. And we also have other things that need to be looked at. For instance, when these cars, if these cars were parked in or had an accident within a garage, right, a structure. We just FDNY just had a internal combustion engine or a gasoline engine car that went on fire inside it was inside a parking garage. And you guys
in Brooklyn,
that, right?
Yep.
I don't know if you know, but that was very close to having a collapse because that thing burned uncontrolled for a very long time without water on it. A tremendous amount of heat, right, going up above, spoiling starting to take place with the concrete. The steel girders are starting to expand, but and these things burn hotter than gasoline. There's just a lot of things that we need to think about. And like we almost saw it with the internal combustion engine, right? And now with the same may apply in this situation. But of course, if it did happen with a lithium-ion battery EV vehicle, it would be all over the place. If it happened with just a car, it'd be like, oh yeah, we had a collapse, right? And people would make a big deal about it. So I think sometimes the industry gets bashed unnecessarily because people are afraid of it. They don't know about it. And there's other people out there that just don't want to make that transfer over to electric vehicles. And I'm not here to tell you which way to go either way, right? If you like electric, go electric. If you want to skip with the internal combustion engine, that's your priority. I'm not an advocate for either side. Yeah.
So I have 2 listener questions here, but I'm going to ask for a little clarity on one. But is there any similarity between thermal runaway and SADT, which is the self-accelerating decomposition temperature? Is there a correlation you can kind of come to with that, where like there is a certain temperature threshold before you go up, hands off?
Yeah, and that's a really, really deep question and good question, And of course, once you start to get into different terminologies and you try to equate them to a different terminology, you have to be careful on that stuff. But there are certain temperatures in lithium ion where they start to get to a certain temperature, and that thermal runaway will start, and then you cannot stop it. And I don't want to tell you on the air that it's X temperature or Y temperature, because lithium ion batteries, to be very clear, have different chemistries within the lithium ion themselves. So there will be different temperatures associated with that different chemistry. So we have a lithium ion iron phosphate. We have a lithium ion nickel magnesium cobalt. We have a lithium ion titanium oxide, and so on and so on and so on. There are a couple of different chemistries out there. The ones that we're going to be dealing with the cause, most likely, are most of these things are going to be what they call lithium magnesium cobalt, or NMC, lithium nickel magnesium cobalt. Actually, some people are having a hard time mining cobalt, so they're actually moving the cobalt out. But Why are they using that one? Because it's a much energy dense and it gets you a longer range for your mileage.
Is that question almost a moot point in the construction of the battery and the entire casing? Because you can't actually take a thermal imaging camera, look through the casing, and determine the actual temperature of the cell, right? That'd
be very difficult, Mike.
Yeah. So trying to base anything off of a temperature wouldn't be a recommended method to determining whether or not the battery is safe, because you can also have a totally cold battery that will slowly start to thermally run away over time. We've left the scene because we are assuming it's cold, or we haven't reached that temperature, so everything's good. And then a little bit of time marches on, and whoosh, the thing lights up.
That's a really good point, Mike. Right? Is that we could have just a tiny pinhole in a separator that separates the positive from the negative, or anode and the cathode from each other, right? And that pinhole would start that internal short circuit, right? Because now we have the positive touching the negative, and then as that heat starts to generate, it can get bigger and bigger and bigger until we finally start having all that energy being released between there. And when you have energy release, you have heat buildup. And when that heat builds up, now we get to the point of a thermal runaway event.
Did you get clarification on that other question, Bob?
Yeah, sorry.
It's Todd Burton. He's asking about battle bots and but he brings up a good point. Is like, do you have lingering HF, hydrofluoric acid, right? Yeah. Decomposition products lingering around, and there's this whole now with the refrigerants that are in the air conditioning system, that what is it, YF1234A or something like that is the new refrigerant that all the cool kids are using now. And this specific refrigerant breaks down to hydrofluoric acid, gaseous. We haven't really paid a lot of attention to it because, first off, HF has a vapor density of less than 1, so it kind of goes up and away. And second off, it's pretty much gone before we even come on scene. So do you see any lithium, specifically gases, Paul, for firefighting companies, let's say, that are in turnouts, SCBA and stuff like that, having a dermal exposure problem?
Yeah, that's a good question about the HF, right? We're always concerned about that as far as firefighters are concerned. And some of the initial testing data that we received when I still was with FDNY, that's one of my big questions. Like, hey, what do we got for HF? And to my surprise, one of the initial tests that we saw, they said we didn't get any HF. And I was a little bit taken back. Now, subsequent to that, there have been other testing data that did show there is HF, but nothing that was a large amount. There was, we were in the really small parts per million. So if there is HF, it may be as a result of the components associated with the batteries, but the cells themselves, from the test data that I have read, do not really generate a lot of HF that I'm aware of. So I always want to be, hey, just I don't want to commit to saying that it's never going to happen. I'm just saying that the test data that I reviewed, and I've reviewed a lot of test data, and burning batteries, the HF is not prevalent by any means.
It's good to know.
The bottom line too is everybody needs to wear their SCBA, because even when I first came on, when these guys first came on, Paul, probably you as well, you went to a car fire, you didn't even put your air pack on your back.
No.
Or if you did, it was just, a feel good thing in case the chief pulled up, but now with everything that's coming out these days, and I won't even get into the whole house fire situation, we need to make sure we wear a mask, because I don't know if you guys have ever seen a credit card swipe machine on the side of a Cascade fill system. You seen one of those? Oh, that's right. Cause air is free. So the air bottle, the air bottle that we're wearing, why would we wear 30 pounds of stuff on our back and not utilize what's on our face? So I think especially with these newer cars that are coming out and the products of combustion that are put out and whatever, we need to really make sure we're on air.
Bobby, that's a really good message. That's a no-brainer. If you're not wearing your air pack on a car fire, then shame on you. With all the information that we got today and all the test data showing that we get so many carcinogenics coming out from whatever type of vehicle fire, whether it's internal combustion engine or EV or natural gas. Yeah, we should be wearing them at any type of fire, regardless of what it is.
Can we pull back from the firefighter's point of view, and can we take a look at the incident commander's point of view?
Sure.
So, incident commander on scene, you have a electrical vehicle. It's on fire. It's been knocked down. What the hell does that incident commander do now? Like, he's got an idea that there's stuff, like, you know, he knows it's out there. He's heard about this. He's read about this. What are his next moves?
Yeah. So, and you're talking specifically with the electric vehicle, right?
Yeah, specifically with electric vehicle. I mean, we could go into energy storage systems as well from an incident commander point of view, but more lithium ion things that, you know, he's hearing they can relight up. How long can they relight up? Like, can I just push this incident off? You know, like, what does the incident commander need to do? What do they need to know? What things do they need to be looking for? Who do they need to reach out to make sure that this vehicle is safe to walk away from?
Yeah. So first of all, the batteries are protected, right, from all the weather and everything like that underneath. So no rain can get in there, no snow can get in there, nothing really can get in there. So the idea that we think that we're going to actually put our hose lines and get a direct hit on those fires in the battery is not going to happen. So
that's a good point.
What we need to do is, if we did cool them down, right? The heat that I mentioned before, once you have a couple of these cells that have gone into a thermal runaway event, and that heat starts to come, we probably compromise more cells in the actual module itself. So that thing will continue to slowly cook, as we mentioned before, and we will have a prolonged operation as a result of trying to cool it down. Now, that doesn't say that we're not going to use a hold line. Mike, you just brought up the point of, do we push that heat back and try to do a grab from someone that's inside the car? And the answer is absolutely yes. We need to do what we need to do to make sure that life is taken care of, right? That's the number one thing. But when it comes to the car, it's hard for us to actually let these things burn. But I'm going to tell you, you're going to have a difficult day trying to get water on that fire itself. So these things, you know, what that incident commander did, right? And I think someone was telling me that he was advised by Tesla to use water, and he wound up using 30,000 gallons of water. Hey, first of all, this whole lithium-ion battery thing, there is a extreme major gaps within the fire service for training on this. Major gaps. And I've been speaking to a lot of people in New York State, the Office of Fire Prevention and Control. I was out in Suffolk County, the International Association of Firefighters, NFPA, UL. Everyone does realize it. It's just that we haven't gotten the money to do the training for the firefighters yet.
Well, just to clarify the point, the reason from the quote from the fire chief in one of the articles that we read for this show was that due to the fact that there were bodies in the back and it was technically a crime scene, his thought process was, I need to maintain the evidence. I need to maintain these bodies and not let this burn, which I think was the reason why it was recommended to do the water. But if you don't have that scenario, you don't necessarily have a structural issue, you don't have a surroundings issue, there is a case to be made for just letting it burn.
You know what, Mike? I think it's going to burn on its own. Just like
whether you like it or not.
Yeah, it's happening anyway.
It's going to be a difficult challenge for the firefighters to put that out until that energy exhausted out of the battery. So what we want to do is make sure that surrounding areas are cooled down, that we don't get that communication to the surrounding areas or to the structure that it may be parked in. And the funny thing is, right, when we look at these charging stations, there's one right next to the other, right? So they're all charged together. And we see this even in the forklift industry. We're doing some work and testing in the forklift industry. They're all going toward battery-operated lithium-ion batteries. Currently, some of them use lead-acid batteries, but lithium-ion holds a much denser energy. But all of those things, at the end of the day, they're all charging in one battery bank, and they're all next to each other. And you know what? Hey, most of them, vast majority of them, are very, very safe, right? And they do the right thing. But once you start charging things, right, what comes into effect? The human error. Human error sometimes screws us up. So that is a little bit of a concern. You know, I talked before about the FAA and the DOT, and we're going to see more and more stuff in the airports, right? Like even I don't know the terminology, but the vehicle that actually pushes the plane out, they're all going electric, right? So now, where do you charge these things? Do you charge them underneath the terminal? What happens if there's a fire? Imagine taking out the airport. Why does thing go on fire? These are all things that like
who needs jihad? Just plug the vehicle in.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that's going to happen. It's just that we have to be, if we're going to be putting these things in the very critical spots, we got to have the right fire protections to make sure that we can manage the fire. And that's what I think that we're going to do with these batteries, is that we're going to have a difficult time putting them out, but what we want to do is manage it, right? Yeah. Manage it so it doesn't continue to move further down the road to other cars, or if it's an energy storage, to other cabinets or enclosures, and so on and so on and so on.
Well, one of the comments, and I'll take it out on this thing, is that it was reported recently that China now has set a new pace in manufacturing electric vehicles, and they are either past us or not, or soon to take us over. So there's going to be a lot of that stuff coming up and going on in the recent in the future. So
yes. I already have my deposit down for my next Harbor Freight vehicle.
I will be documenting that whole endeavor digitally.
You drive it once.
So Bobby, the U.S. really does need to ramp up its manufacturing of lithium-ion batteries, right? And we do have a couple of plants. I've actually visited one, out in the Gigafactory. We were their guest, and they were very good. I'm part of the International Fire Code Committee, and they brought the committee out there to take a look at the batteries themselves and the manufacturing of the batteries, which was a great tour when you realize there must have been between 15 and 20 areas that if everything wasn't lined up perfectly, it spit the battery out and it went out. And now that battery that gets spit out, that goes back to recycling.
Wow.
They don't even use it. They're like, boom, it spits it out. So I was totally impressed on the amount of quality assurance checks that this battery has during the manufacturing phase. It was like totally uplifting to see the care and the quality that they put into these batteries to make sure that they don't go on fire. I was impressed with that.
I'll throw the last question on the way out the door. It is a very good question. It is, where is the gap? Is it in our tools or in our training?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I don't know any specific tool that's going to make our job easier if we had a battery fire that's encased inside a watertight enclosure. But the training is something that is really negligent right now. And that really needs to ramp that up. But, it's interesting. Not only do we need to ramp up the training, but we need to teach the instructors like yourselves, right, on the really deep depth stuff on lithium-ion batteries, right? You have to have a good understanding of this, but if the training is not sufficient, we're going to see the end results out in the field where we're gonna have some mishaps out there.
And I just want to add one thing, if I could, Bob, before we leave.
Sure.
I think what Paul's saying is absolutely correct with the training. And we're a bunch of hazmat geek nerds, whatever you want to call us. But you know what? There's extrications, there's fires, there's all these things dealing with these batteries. And those in the hazmat community need to take our fellow firefighters and say, hey, listen, come over here for a second. Let's talk about this, because you might have to cut this car up or put the fire out or so on. So it's not just a hazmat thing, it's a fire department thing.
And what it comes down to, Bob, and that's a really good point, is, again, managing these incidents, right? As long as we have the information, the more information you have, the easier it is to manage these things. And that's how FDNY is looking at these energy storage systems that are going on top of rooftops. And I consistently had said that, look, we're going to have a difficult time putting these things out, but we need to manage the incident. And that comes into play in a lot of different things, because with these energy storage, and I apologize for going back down that road all the time, but the FDNY requires that someone show up to the scene if these things set off an alarm. It could be a smoke alarm, but they want someone who has a good background in it to assist the incident commander to give further guidance on what to do or whether they can take up. It's 3 o'clock in the morning, right? And what are you saying? Well, I wonder if that thing is boiling on the inside. I wonder what's going on there. And
I haven't had very, I don't have a very good track record with those experts that show up. I'll tell you right now, I don't think they're sending their best. Yeah, no, they're definitely not sending their A team. I know we want to get going. I know it's getting late. I have one last question. Do I have any concern about getting blasted at the scene of one of these car accidents if I go try to open the door? Is there a possibility for electrical?
Well, that's always a possibility that you could have ground out and it could electrify the car. But I haven't seen that, Mike. I haven't heard any reports on that. So you never want to close the door on that possibility. But that's a difficult question. That's a good hypothetical that I don't have a good answer for. As far as you're talking about electrical, right?
Yeah. I'm not worried about getting punched in the face. I mean, it happens all the time. I'm so used to it. You don't get this pretty just by.
Happened twice today. I mean,
yeah, that's good.
Well, you know what? It is a true expert that says, I don't know. I think we all can agree with that. And Paul, you are the guy I call. I've called you on a couple of battery incidents on the way in and say, Paul, this is what I got. And you're like, all right, do this. And it is a tremendous resource. Paul is the guy when it comes to my mind with batteries, and very lucky to get him on the show tonight. I'm hoping he can come back on shortly. But with that said, we'll see you guys next month's Tuesday.
This is great. Hey, guys, thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on.
It was great.